Campus college football preview video. Today we're taking a look at a Big Ten tilt Friday night. Maryland hosting Penn State. This should be a good one down at, Capital One Arena or Stadium, whatever, down in College Park. Let's get into it here. Ian Cameron, how you doing this week?
Friday Night Lights, big man, Penn State, Maryland, Big Ten Conference opener for both of these teams. Capital One Field, a blackout is being planned at Maryland for this game. Should be a frenzied environment and a really good game to get us going on Friday night.
Yeah, this week you're finally starting to see we're getting a Thursday night game as well, which we haven't had. So should be fun. Let's break it down. Ian, we start off here with this one, and we look at Maryland is a 6.5 point underdog at home. Total here is at 60, and 60 seems low. Its total opened around 58. It's been bet up all week, 260. So bettors coming in, they like the over in this game, and for good reason. Both these offenses have been terrific. They are both off bye weeks, which is always interesting. Neither side played last week, so they had some time to kind of rehash some things and hopefully get them figured out. We know before the bye, though, Maryland losing to Temple University Owls, which, I don't know how at this point that looks a little bit more brutal than maybe we thought. Temple beat them in a close game, but then Temple goes and loses last week to the Buffalo Bulls by double digits. Is that just a bad game for Maryland, or what happened there? But either way, Penn State coming back, they look good in their first game, put up 79 points. But, I guess maybe we can also learn that Buffalo is actually maybe pretty good. They hung with Penn State. They beat Temple. So maybe it's not as bad of a loss for Maryland as maybe we thought. Ian, I'm interested to hear what you like here. I kind of look at this game and think points. Both these groups, I think defensively have always very generally good talent, but these are offenses that can light the scoreboard up. What do you like here, Ian?
The total is interesting because it's 60. Obviously Maryland's been playing that extreme tempo offense this year. They've totally revamped the way things were offensively from the DJ Durkin era, which was plotting offense that couldn't throw the football at all. We remember Maryland was such an easy handicap at times last year, where if they could run the football, they could score and move the ball. If they couldn't run the football, they couldn't do jack basically on offense. That's basically what Maryland was last year. This year, they're certainly got that passing dimension back, bringing in a guy like Josh Jackson, the Virginia Tech transfer at the quarterback, Scotty Montgomery, the offensive coordinator, hated him as a head coach at ECU. But on the offensive side, he knows what he's doing a little bit, and we've seen that. Maryland has been able to move the ball. I'm a little bit less sold on the Penn State offense, to be honest with you right now, Jeff, when it comes to this football game, because is it okay for me to be unimpressed with Penn State's 3-0 start? Because I'm unimpressed with Penn State's 3-0 start to this season. You look at their first three games, you beat up on a bad Idaho team, you beat a down Buffalo Bulls team, which lost a lot from last year, and don't be fooled by that final score against Buffalo. It looks like they blew them out. It wasn't really anything but. When you look at it, they actually they were outgained by Buffalo in that football game, Penn State, even though they won that game by a big margin. And then you look at the game following that for Penn State against Pitt, 17-10. And if you watch that game, that was Pitt losing the game more than it was Penn State winning that football game. I thought they couldn't get things rolling on offense. Sean Clifford, the quarterback, to me, he's okay. I don't think he's Trace McSorley at this point for the Penn State offense. We know the running game's not as strong as it's been. They've been going running back by committee so far because nobody's really stepped up. I guess you could say Brown is probably the best running back they've got, but it's not the kind of production they were getting out of the ground game back, obviously, in the Saquon Barkley days here at Penn State. So I've got concerns about Penn State's offense a little bit, especially the last few games. They struggled at times to get going against Buffalo. And then against Pitt, they really didn't move the ball all that great. And they were stalling consistently in Pittsburgh territory going into this game. So you look at that. They've played three pretty manageable opponents. And Pitt's a decent team, actually. Pitt's a pretty good team. We just saw them beat UCF, but they weren't impressive in any of those games. Now you got to go on the road for the first time. Big Ten Conference opener. And as a road favorite in Big Ten play, I don't trust Penn State. And you look back last year at their results on the Big Ten road, and they were laying points in every game. They're just 1-3 against the spread as Big Ten road favorites last year. They didn't cover against Rutgers. They didn't cover against Michigan. They didn't cover against Indiana. The one cover was as fraudulent a cover as you could ask for last year. It was that ridiculous Penn State-Illinois game last year. It's the only one they covered as a road favorite. They were down 24-21 in that game.
Let me interject on that one. I was on that side, Illinois, and it was right at the gate too. It was like week 2. It was fucking brutal.
Yeah,
because they were up in the third quarter and they didn't cover as like 27-point underdogs. It was hideous.
And that was the only Penn State cover as road favorites in Big Ten conference play last year. That game that Illinois was up 3 and they completely pissed it away in the second half. And Penn State did the old James Franklin asshole move. Let's roll up the points. Let's be an ignorant ass. Let's just try to, just embarrass this team and kick a field goal with 2 minutes to go in the game when we're up 40. That's the kind of thing you get out of James Franklin, obviously, when he's playing an outmanned opponent. But I don't think he's playing an outmanned opponent here. I'm going to take the points with the home underdog here, Maryland. I like the spot for them. They're off that loss against Temple. But if you remember that game, first of all, Temple, pretty solid defense. Second of all, how many times did Maryland get stuffed on the goal line or stuffed in the red zone of that football game? And it could have been a completely different result if Maryland has that better execution in the red zone on offense in that game. I think back home against a Penn State team that's going on the road for the first time this year, with a pretty easy schedule, other than the Pitt game, Buffalo and Idaho, easy schedule, all at home in Happy Valley. Things won't be so happy, I don't think, for Penn State on Friday night. Give me Maryland here.
I got to tell you, Ian, I think I have you and Joe Duffy on to do breakdowns. That was one of the better ones I've heard, and I'm going to tell you why. There's a lot of fluff in this business. People want to be funny. They don't want to get the picks. Ian Cameron just told you why he likes a side, and it makes total sense. And here's why. The body of work by Penn State is not good enough. Okay, you beat Idaho, Buffalo, and you didn't really play that well in that game, as we remember.
Outgained yardage-wise. Outgained by 72 yards by Buffalo in that game. That's a misleading final score as much as you'll ever see one.
Exactly. We all know as well, Maryland 2-0 going into Temple. So that was a real bad spot for them. They were just off a huge win. They put up 63 points on Syracuse, not Central Connecticut State or Vermont, Syracuse. Okay, they went by 43 in that game, put up 60-plus points. They're coming into a game against Temple who, look, let's be honest with ourselves, people. That is not a real bad loss. Temple's football moxie is pretty good. They have a great defense. As Ian said, probably should have won the game. I mean, they were stuffed a few different times in the red zone. And you're going to tell me that if this game is in Happy Valley, you're telling me Penn State would be a 9-point favorite? That's basically what you're insinuating here? I don't buy it. I'd have put this number, and I've been pretty good at foreshadowing lines, Ian. I'm sure you are as well. I would have put this number at 3.5, personally. 6 is too high. I think it gets to 7. In fact, at certain books, this number did get to 7. It was immediately bet back to 6. 7 is the play. 6.5, I think, still a play. I'm going to look to see where this one goes, because here's the thing about 6. Let's say it goes to 5.5. I think it will close 6. I think it's more likely to go to 7 or 6.5 than it is to go down. I'll wait on the punters to come in, because what do they remember last about Maryland? Them losing. We remember that. It's a home dog here that can move the football. I don't see 6 points difference between these two groups. I agree with you. I'm probably going to look to bang on these points as well.
Yeah, I like Maryland plus the points. And there's going to be something that I know will attract people in terms of Penn State defensively. Well, again, Pitt, a very mediocre pedestrian offense. Buffalo loses a ton of people offensively from last year. Idaho's bad. Where's the good offense that Penn State's defense has faced so far this season? You look at Penn State's rushing numbers in particular, and they have been great against the run. When you're giving up 70.7 yards per game, 1.9 yards per carry, that's great. But you haven't faced a back anywhere close to Anthony McFarland Jr. yet. I've been impressed with that guy from Maryland. He's been a horse running that football. He's been a huge part of this offense. I expect him to have a pretty good game here and help support Josh Jackson throwing the football here in this one. So I like Maryland. And again, Penn State's track record as Big Ten road chalk last year wasn't very pretty.
Yeah, one concern I do have with Josh Jackson, and what I liked about the fact that they had a bye last week is the Baltimore Sun, who I will add is one of the great papers still left in America, one of the best papers you can read. They did an article on Josh Jackson and how he looks to eliminate mistakes in what he called an outlier performance against Temple. And look, even back to the Syracuse game, he wasn't incredibly accurate. He needs to be more accurate. I think the bye did him a world of good. Look, buys can work differently for teams. Look, I sold last week that the bye was going to be huge for Michigan. It wasn't. There's not a great football team. I like Maryland. I think they're a good home team. And you mentioned this Penn State team, not a great road favorite. I'll again be in a good spot because I can bet against James Franklin as well, which I always like to do. Ian, great stuff, great breakdown. I'm sure people will really enjoy this one. We're going to go over another game as well that I'm excited about also. Ian, how you been doing in football? Are you doing a nice job?
Very good, coming off an incredible NFL weekend in particular. Just outstanding results. I think all told, all wagers, personal and what I gave out combined, 11-2 in the NFL this Sunday. Absolutely fantastic weekend. College was pretty solid, had more winners than losers there. So very good weekend, but it's all about what you're going to do, not what you did. Hoping to keep it going.
Such a great point. I've had a good season as well. I mean, I've it seems like on that closing line show I do with Donnie on the NFL, it seems like we're just rolling. But sometimes you see the card good, but we know how quickly in this business that ends. Ian, you remember 2 years ago in college basketball, I won 40 plus units in one sport on 1 unit bets. Next year I come back, I start 0-9. Business can go quickly the other way. So let's just talk about the good times here and hope that the bad times don't come very soon. Ian, good stuff. We'll talk to you in the other video. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Jeff.